Welcome to PRAJNA SPARKS special series, 59 Days of Healing, where we explore one maxim from the Tibetan Lojong text, 7 Points for Healing Dualistic Mind, each day to integrate the practice into our lives. Today is day 41. We are in the midst of point 7, tips. Maxim 41 reads, open and close with 2 acts. One of the most common questions I get is, do you have anything quick and easy that I can do to change my life? This is it. This sometimes comes from Buddhist practitioners, but sometimes not. Sometimes it's folks with a spiritual turn to their mind. And sometimes it's folks not particularly spiritual in their identification, but want life to feel richer, more meaningful, full of purpose. How do you open and close with 2 acts? What are the 2 acts? What does open and close mean? The most common way this is explained is describing the opening and closing as the beginning and end of your day. So these are 2 acts that bracket your day in the morning and in the evening to enrich every day. What are those 2 acts? The beginning of the day, the act is to stoke the intention to use all of the things that we encounter throughout that day as part of that conspiracy to enlighten me, optimizing our practice of bodhicitta, the awakening mind. We can recall that bodhicitta, the awakening mind, has a relative aspect, which points 3 through 7 focus on most, and an ultimate aspect, which is the emphasis in point 1 and especially point 2. To open each day with the intention of making the most of that day as a practice of awakening mind on a very simple, everyday level means that we intend to do our best to overturn self-importance and open our hearts to others more, living out of a sense of our interconnectedness with other beings, the planet, everything there is, even beyond our comprehension. We start small, people that it's easy to be nice to, and expand out from there, allowing our mind to grow in its perspective as we do. On an ultimate level, this intention with respect to bodhicitta is about increasing our understanding that things are not exactly as they appear to be. That's the shunyata, or emptiness aspect of bodhicitta. What that means specifically for any given person on any given day is obviously going to vary depending on whether we have a spiritual practice, whether that spiritual practice is Buddhist or not, whether it's a beginning practice, an intermediate practice, a later practice, whether we're sick, whether we're busy, any number of things. The beauty of opening each day with that intention is that it meets us wherever we are. No matter what we're doing, there's a way that we can be creative to lessen our stress on self-importance and broaden our perspective to not be so sure that everything exists precisely in the subjective way that we perceive it. At the end of the day, we look back at the day and reflect on how things went. Did we forget altogether as soon as we made our intention in the beginning of the day? Probably at the beginning. It's very easy to forget, just like any other habit. It takes a while to cultivate that. Eventually, we do get into the habit and we're able to look back at that day. Now, the important thing here is this is a practice of relative bodhicitta. It's in point 7. So the attitude we bring to the practice is one of kindness, nurture, and joy towards ourselves. It is not about putting ourselves down because we forgot or because we got angry or because we reified something. It's about being gentle and encouraging to ourselves. What these 2 acts do when we open and close is they instill a habit. The more we do it, the more we cultivate familiarity with that habit, the more we start to bring that intention of bodhicitta in the relative sense, being available, vulnerable, and interconnected with beings, as well as in the ultimate sense, being alive to infinite potentiality into our days. At the end of the day, we rejoice no matter what. It's even wonderful to rejoice that you forgot all about it as soon as you got up from making the intention. Hey, you noticed. It only took you to the end of the day to remember that you forgot. Usually it might take days or weeks or it just gets lost in the ether somewhere. Another quick tip within this tip, I purposely render this as open and close with 2 acts rather than to say open and close the day with 2 acts. Because at first, as we already talked about, even a day can be a fairly long period of time to sustain this habit. It's great to use this open and close bracketing for a much shorter expanse of time. So you might set the intention when you leave home for work. From now until I get to the office, I'm going to optimize my practice of bodhicitta, the awakening mind, diminishing self-importance, feeling my interconnection with beings, and expanding my perspective. When you get to work, you look back. Did you have an instance of road rage on the way in? Did something else actually prompt your heart to open? Reflect and rejoice in whatever happens. Noticing ways that you departed from your aspiration helps us to spot that next time the habit comes around, and so forth. As you work with the intervals of time, you can slowly expand that, not just from the time you leave the house to work, but maybe until lunchtime. And after you've gotten used to that, maybe until the end of the workday. When you've gotten used to that, the end of the day, and so forth. This is really a practice that we can make our own in our own specific circumstances. The more we bring our own life circumstances, our own creativity, our own individual spark, the more this practice will speak to us.
Well, I have something of a theater background, so I love the idea of thinking about my day as being Act 1 opens the day, and then Act 2, take a bow at the end. This is very helpful guidance, and I'm just trying to think of how to remember to do it. I was thinking, all right, well, what are things that I do at the beginning and the end of the day? Okay, I brush my teeth in the morning and in the evening. Should I do this while I brush my teeth, or is it better to do it when I'm not doing something else, when I'm not multitasking? And I was thinking, well, I wake up to NPR every morning. Is that the best thing to wake up to sort of set the intention? So I'm just wondering if you can get a little bit down to the granular in terms of any guidance you have about this.
The best time to do it is when you'll do it. We're talking about a very earthy practice. If tying this new habit you want to develop to brushing your teeth is going to help you anchor that habit, then do it. There's lots of habit science that explains that this kind of habit stacking, it's called, is a great way to develop a new habit. You already have a habit of brushing your teeth or having your coffee, or maybe you're collecting your things in your briefcase before you head to work, or whatever it may be. Find an anchor for your day and tie this new habit to that. If you have a regular sitting practice, a meditation practice in the morning, which many people do, perfect time. You're already sitting, you're already quiet. Perhaps at the end of the session, when your mind is already a little calm, you can end that practice by opening your day. As a matter of fact, you can open and close the practice with 2 hacks. Let's say you sit for 30 minutes. Open with the intention of holding space for yourself with lots of positivity and attentiveness, all of the qualities you want to bring to your practice. And at the close of that half-hour practice, look back, reflect on how that went, and open the next piece of your day.
That's great. It's the same rule I have about exercise. You should do whatever it is you'll actually do. I think that's perfect. And I like this idea of habit stacking. So I thought, oh, well, maybe this will actually get me to floss. That would be fantastic. I'm thinking also about that end of the day piece and reflecting back on it. And I love the fact that just noticing is a win. That's such a wonderful way to not get down on yourself about it. And I was thinking again, theater background, like after the second act, you take a bow and then you have notes from the director. And so this is really, you're giving yourself notes, like, okay, well, let's look back and how did that go? And the thing about notes is that there's also an idea that you're going to then think about maybe how to do it different or better the next time. So I'm wondering, is that also part of the end of the day, or is that getting it too complicated?
The point of that closing act is to reinforce our alertness and awareness through the day and the habit of opening and closing. If we make it too cumbersome, if we have to like draft incredible notes at the end of the day, it becomes almost punitive, just too much to do. We don't have to go into a lot of elaborate note taking. The mind is smart, will naturally incline towards learning from this process. There doesn't need to be an extra layer on top of that. The point is to reinforce the behavior. Simply noticing, whether it's that day or the next day or a month later that we've forgotten, that's reinforcing. If at the end of the day, you're going to sit there and be like, oh man, I forgot this, I forgot that, I yelled at this person, I like had nasty thoughts about that person, I broke maxim number 32, that is not going to reinforce any of this. And right there, you are not acting with the intention of the opening act. So the two acts go hand in hand. That closing act is meant to be kind and broad minded towards yourself, reinforcing this behavior, not turning it into an exercise that's so grueling that you just never want to go there.
So keep it simple. We don't have to have our gold stars and decide how many we get for the day or anything like that. It's just really the noticing and paying attention. Okay, that's lovely.
That's right.
This has been Yeshe and Tanya on day 41 of PRAJNA SPARKS special series, 59 Days of Healing. Tune in daily for more maxims from the Tibetan Lojong text, 7 Points for Healing Dualistic Mind. Check the episode notes for more resources, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at PRAJNA SPARKS, and email us, sparks@prajnafire.com, with any questions. May all beings benefit.